So then an update on what's going on in the market, and what we tried to do this time is take a little different view, and that is to highlight more where the high growth areas, low growth areas are. As many of you probably realize or remember from our previous presentation, 2013 declined overall by about 800 million. This is primarily due to just some really different activity at the very high end of the market. If you also look at other sources like the top 500 list, for the last two editions, there's really been almost no change in the top 10. You know, there was one edition at number 10 in the last list. We're seeing a very strong softening at the high end, but from our perspective, it's mostly due to the roller coaster effect of some of the very large systems. So we expect, you know, in the next 6 months or the next 12 months, to the market recover back. But we're right now in that kind of lower part of the trough. We're just about to release our first half of the year numbers, and you can see here right now we're looking at being even down 5% for the high end of the market. And here's how the market did shape out in 2013. So roughly $10 billion. The supercomputers has grown to be 40% of it, almost exactly. And then the other categories you can see here are various sizes. And what I'd like to do then is talk about the growth areas. So right now, the supercomputer portion of the market, as I mentioned, is under severe pressure. It's actually down 24%. Now, I always have to mention to everyone, it grew dramatically. This portion of the market was growing 20% a year. So if you take a 5-year view, supercomputers are doing tremendous right now. But we are seeing this roller coaster effect. And so this is where you see overall it's down about 5%. The other segments of the market are actually doing very well, and they were in somewhat of a pressure mode, but if you look here, these growth rates for the first half of the year are fairly healthy for the lower portion of the market. And then if you look at by vendor, you know, IBM and HP traditionally have been the top vendors. IBM has been under pressure primarily because, you know, they're in the process of moving a major portion of their business over to Lenovo. So there's some stalling in the market due to that. HP is basically flat year over year. The Cray number I always have to mention is, even though it looks real bad here at minus 24%, Cray normally has a gigantic fourth quarter. So the Cray's year is going to depend on what happens in the fourth quarter on that portion of the market. We are seeing NEC having a fair amount of success with their vector product line. I believe they have sold 5 systems so far. I think 2 of them, Schrag, have been accepted, and 3 are still in the process of being accepted. But so NEC's seen some very interesting luck on their vector line that they've launched. So looking at by the industry application segments, we are seeing a good resurgence in the manufacturing sector. If you remember in the 2008, 2009, that's the sector that got hit the most. And of course, geosciences are doing very well. And then looking at by the geographic areas of the world, right now the ones that are under the most pressure is North America and Europe. Japan is actually doing fairly well, and again, that's driven a lot by NEC and Fujitsu and some other activities taking place there. And then Asia-Pac, if you notice we didn't color that, it's down a little bit more than 1%, but that's less than what the whole market's down. So in a sense, it's not negative because it's doing better than the decline of the market. But we didn't have the courage to color it green since it was a negative number. But right now, things in China are going well, but that's the reason the coloration there is a little different. Then looking at the market by processors, no surprise here, you know, the Titanium EPIC line, we show it as going to 0. It hasn't actually gone to 0, but what we do with our tracking, the hardest thing for us to track are small numbers. Because when you start getting down to small numbers, it's one site here, one site there, and you either get it exact or you get it wrong. You just can't model it. So once the number gets small enough, we just take it to 0 and lump it in another bucket. And that's what we've done with EPIC and also on the Blue Gene side. My understanding right now, there are still a few Blue Gene systems being sold, but they're primarily being resold, you know, previous systems. But we take it to 0 because it's gotten to such a small number. And no surprise here is the x86 portion of the market is the dominant portion of the market. If you notice the numbers here, I believe that's getting above a 90% level. You know, so what does the market like? It likes x86 processors, and that's the primary processors being sold. You've seen these before. These are our top 10 predictions we have for what's going on in the market. Number 2 I'll focus on, we are still predicting that we'll see 200 petaflop systems within 12 months from now, before the end of next year. They've already been identified and funded in China, so both of those are Chinese systems. One of them will be x86 based, most likely with 5 coprocessors. The other one most likely is going to be based on a Chinese domestic processor. So in kind of conclusions here, HPC, we're still projecting it to be a strong growth market. We're projecting about 7% average growth over the next 5 years. The low-end buyers are finally getting back into a healthy growth mode. That's the portion of the market that was most depressed over the last 4 years. We do expect to see major vendor shifts in 2014 and 2015. And with the IBM Lenovo announcement, that piece alone changes the market from having 2 very large vendors to 1 medium-sized vendor and then about 35 small vendors, to a market where you have 1 large vendor and 3 medium-sized ones. So that'll be just a major shift in the actual market size and what's going on. The exascale race, we think, is continuing to heat up. The U.S. funding, of course, is taking very long to get put into place. Our beliefs there, though, is that will still happen. It just takes a long time for certain government bodies to make those decisions. We don't think what we call the pretty exascale, meaning low power with a lot of capabilities, are going to happen until probably 2023 or 2024. But we think there's going to be exascale machines long before then. And then the other part, of course, is this convergence of big data and high-performance computing we do see as the highest growth area of the market right now. And if you have any questions, want more data, I kind of just gave you a sampling of a lot of the different data points we have. Feel free to send us an email or check out the User Forum website.